This is a very classy place. It really is, and it's also very human. Both those things together are really cool. Thank you for having us. It's great.
Thank you. And I want to say the same. We do a lot of Q&As here, and every once in a while I just feel compelled to start with a very genuine and heartfelt just thank you for the art that was completed, for the film we got to see, for taking the journey, for sharing it with us. It's just thank you for making this film.
Well, it's really a humbling experience to have made this film. I didn't write the story, I didn't create the characters, and I didn't write the dialogue. I put it together. I'm real proud of it, and I'm glad that you like it. But it's them. It's Catherine. It's the life and the choices that she made and the people that were attracted into her life and what they had to say about how she lived. That's so powerful. For me, that's a great experience as a director, because my first feature was all in the first person and narrated rhyme. So if I was promoting it, I was promoting me. I was talking about me and the things that I'd done and the things that I'd said. I can sit here humbly and tell you that for every tear you may or may not have cried, I've cried 1,000. This has been a really intense period, just as especially an American male born in the 50s and raised through John Wayne and John Lennon, right? That kind of just, we're tough, but we're human and we're vulnerable, all the things that men have gone through, as have women. Good catch. So I'm really grateful that you came. I'm grateful that you stayed. I'm grateful that you're here now. And it's a really humbling and positively wonderful experience to have worked on this. It took a long time, but it's, it still speaks to me. And that's, I guess, the bottom line, ultimately.
Thank you. Well, I certainly have questions, but I do want to turn it over to the audience. I know that we have a lot of passionate David Lynch fans, Twin Peaks fans, Catherine Coulson fans, and some of you may have just a burning comment or a question that you want to start. So I just want to turn it over to you first, if anyone has anything they want to ask Richard about the production of the film or anything whatsoever.
All right, I'll go first. Oh. I want to go first.
You want to go first? Yeah, go ahead.
Does anybody here know my connection to Mulholland Drive? Okay, because I've always assumed that people would, and that was also also a very extraordinary experience. If you don't know, I played the magician in David's Mulholland Drive, and I can assure you that that experience as an actor was the best I ever had in any circumstance. And it was the most intimate with David. It was the most feeling of that I got. He got everything that he just got it, and you could feel that he got it. And that's the exact same feeling I had when the tables were the other way, and I sat and interviewed him for an hour and a half about Catherine, is he knew that I was getting it, and there's so much more to that interview. And charming guy, right? Amazing, just really interesting human being who just, as they said about Catherine, present, right there. Okay, sorry, you were going to ask a question, and I usurped your...
I'm curious, with all due respect, but is there a known location of the log?
I'm going to tell you now. Actually, I am proud to say that this is a very public piece of knowledge that I'm going to give you. As of right now, the log is on display with Catherine's real red glasses at the, oh God, I always forget the name of this thing. It's the Forestry Center in Portland, Oregon. And if you go to iknowcatherine.com, or our Instagram is Log Lady Film, I hope, you can make a donation to the World Forestry Center, which is protecting our forests. There's another organization, and there's an indigenous peoples organization. That all you have to do is make a donation to one of those organizations, anything you want to donate, and then send a picture of that, I believe, into the company, and you will be entered into a drawing, a random drawing, for one of the most beautiful things you can imagine. Michael Horse is an artist, and he designed these beautiful silver logs. So we got one, and in order to sort of honor it, it was honoring Catherine and the World Forestry Center, but really, this is Zoe's idea. And everybody in our team down here, including Catherine's great niece, Claire Olivier, who works with us, is just really glad to see Zoe moving into the world a little bit and helping support the legacy of her mom. Yeah. So.
I want to say, first of all, this was an absolutely beautiful tribute, absolutely beautiful. And I wanted to know, as an artist, what was it like for you balancing the joy and, humor and just the wonderful lady she was, with also the melancholic themes that it is a posthumous tribute. So what was it like to, there's moments when we're laughing and then moments when we're crying 5 minutes into the movie. So what was it like for you kind of balancing that?
Well, what might you think? I experienced something, if I'm going to indulge myself just to talk about somebody I believe in that was wonderful. In Mulholland Drive, there's a scene, it's one of the great scenes of cinema to me, where Naomi Watts kisses an older actor and plays this scene with him. And it's brilliant. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's a really great scene. And there's a director that's in the room there, and he says, now I just want you to make it real. He does something that is almost surreal. It's so real, but it's surreal, and it's bullshit, and it's creepy, and it's so real. And that guy is Wayne Grace. One of the actors I don't think we see him, but he was in Circus with Catherine all those many years ago. So a couple of decades ago, I decided I was going to start playing piano, and I really wanted to develop my voice. And I was working on it, and I called Wayne up, and I played him a song, and I sang him the song. He said, well, it's good, boyo, but don't forget the emotion, boyo. Don't forget the emotion, kid, right? Come on, what are you doing, man? It's like, right? Because I was looking at it from such a technical point of view. I can remember another point in my life where I was lucky enough to get a part in a play. It was a West Coast premiere of a Mrochek play. And I got to smoke cigarettes. I hadn't smoked in years. This was like the reason to smoke cigarettes. And I needed to cry, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't catch it. Just as a side note, there's a moment that Robert Schenken is talking about how hard it was for Catherine to do that role time and time again, 8 shows a week, to go through that personal stuff. There was a second production of this play immediately following this one. Armando, right? He went. Catherine was not invited. And in the longer version of this film, which we hope to release one day, it's like a 3-part miniseries, we think, it tells a story of her not being able to hit that because it was so painful. For me, imagine that guy not crying about Catherine, missing her because we weren't that kind of close, right? We were cousins in a big family, right? But I think because I absorbed these 70 interviews, 65 interviews or something, I absorbed it all. All of it was just empathetically. There was a period of time when I couldn't talk for 5 minutes without crying. And if I talked about anything that had any meaning to me, anything that I believed in or I cared about, boom, just fly. And we're showing up in Glendale right now, and there was a show that let out at 6 just before I came here. I wanted to go. It came out at 7, so there weren't a lot of people there, but I did a Q&A. God, man, I could not. I mean, somebody asked me a particular question, or the song that I may play for you later, just pouring of emotion out. And it's embarrassing some way, on some level, if you with people you don't know, although I'm not usually with people I don't know. But it's also so enriched my life, being with these people. These are special people. Catherine was David was special, and he, as much as he could, as much as we all do, we keep people around us that make us feel better, that are also special. In his case, some extraordinary people were his regular friends. Some of them are totally unknown and not famous for any reason. And Catherine was like that. And look at who these people are. They're some of the most eloquent, thoughtful people about life, about these same subjects. So that's what it felt like.
Just curious to know, and something you just touched on when you're talking about, longer version of the film, is as I was watching it, I was really impressed by just how comprehensive a portrait of her life you provide, and just how many nuggets and chapters of her life and her journey. What was the process like to decide ultimately what you were going to keep and what you weren't? And I'm just curious to know if you have an approximate idea of just how many minutes of interviews you got total from everybody that you to pull from.
Well, there are over 65 interviews, I know that. And I conducted probably about 57 of them, maybe 55 of them or something. And all the ones that I did were over an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half, because of the way I approached the interview. And I think that it serves the film. Because by the time Kyle was talking about acting and Catherine and David, he felt that I understood. I know he felt this because I did. I asked him, and I could feel it. You could talk to somebody and get a lot if you listen really carefully. And and these were sculpted interviews. I mean, I was writing these things down before I went in, but keeping flexible and looking for who they were, because that's the only way it would be interesting. Everybody's going to say, yeah, she was tall, she was funny, she was generous, she was nice, had great presence. Okay, that's not a very long movie. There was a lot more to it in the specificity of that. So the estimation, how did it structure? I can kind of lay that out pretty quick, actually. So nobody knew the whole story, right? There's four complete, from my perspective still, there are four complete, almost separate parts of her life. On camera, we all know her as the log lady, period, right? There's hardly any other film footage of her that's significant. It's the log lady, right? So that's on camera. Behind the camera, now Cassavetes, Nicholas Meyer, serious work. Fred Elms, he dedicates his Lifetime Achievement Award to her. This is Fred Elms. This is, So you got on camera, you got behind the camera. On stage, I mean, let's start at Disneyland and end up at 22 seasons at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, please. This is a significant career where Pulitzer Prize-winning playwrights are writing for her, and great playwrights like Lisa Loomer are thinking of her when they're writing, right? Which is a whole other element of the story. But then you have Catherine in the community, right? Not just getting guys stoned so they didn't get drafted, but a Catholic girl converting to Judaism, marrying a rabbi, becoming the rabbi's wife in this relatively small town in Oregon, and the rabbi's wife, the position is really the social director. It's the person who delivers the bread and the challah and the, medicine and cares for the sick and keeps tabs on everything. That's an extraordinary thing. She was that in many people's lives in all of those situations. So four really distinct areas of her life. Everybody that I interviewed, largely thankfully to Jenny in some ways, who knew all these people and put them in, the right ones in front of us. All of them felt that she was their best friend. And not immaturely, but just that kind of deep rapport, that deep understanding. So all of these interviews, I would say that the stuff that we shot, because don't forget we did recreated scenes as well, and there are others that nobody's seen yet. So I think probably there was about 150 to 200 hours worth of material, but only about 75 hours of interview footage to have to go through 4 times. because the process was, the other thing is I knew, my first interview that I conducted was with David. There had been a couple of interviews conducted by Bill Haugsy, who wanted to direct it, and I wanted to give him some room to see if he could. I didn't want him to, because I thought he had a skewed point of view. And he couldn't, he hung himself with the rope, and that left the door open, and I jumped in. I wanted to interview David, and once I interviewed David, I knew how to tell the story, so I decided I had to direct it. So one of the things that David wanted and that I wanted both was not to make this about Twin Peaks. And one of the reasons that I did it was fairly, oh God, what's the word? I don't want to paint myself as too dark a character, but I just figured, I knew what David had said. I knew the interview we already had. Before we crowdfunded this, I knew what the interview was. So I knew that if we just put the interview out, Twin Peaks fans are going to be delighted. I mean, just really, really happy. And almost any of the interviews and almost anything we did. And what David wanted is he wanted the world to know about Catherine, who she was. He didn't want it to be about Twin Peaks. He wanted it to be about Catherine. And I felt the same way. So I did not watch season 3 when it came out. I just didn't watch it. Stayed away from it. Didn't want to know. Didn't go back and watch. I never finished season 2 back in the 90s. I was not a major Twin Peaks fan. I loved the first season, you know, and I know its relevance and influence, and I'm a major David fan for a lot of reasons. But so the first thing we did was, it took almost 2 years to get the interviews, just to get the ones that were significant that we went, you know, and Kyle, I think, was one of the last. So once we had the interviews, then we had to put the timeline together. It's like anybody doing a biography of somebody famous, except there's hardly anything written about this person, right? It's not like doing Disney. So I could go on and keep narrowing this down if you want, but I don't want to.
Well, I think that's, for me, that's where my gratitude comes from, is that I think going into it, mind you, I was ready for it to be about Twin Peaks, but I think that's what I was expecting. And so it was just such a treat to have it be just so much more holistic than that. And just such an introduction, you know, to someone that we really knew very little about, but sort of cult worshipped.
Well, I hope that it's an introduction to Twin Peaks for people who don't know anything. That was one of my goals as well, is to the story is Catherine's story. The story is someone who lives such a life that she can draw all of these people, these disparate, wonderful people together to help her accomplish her goal at the end of her life because it's important to her. That's the story. And will she get there? You know, ticking clock from the moment David announces the show and then she finds out she's sick. That's the story. How much can we hang on that story? That's where the structure came from. The miniseries is linear and works in a linear way. It's just, and it's more leisurely, of course. It works in a linear, but how much of her can we get in here? Ultimately, one goal is to just realize that it's her story, and there's a couple of unique settings for it. There's a Shakespeare setting, and there's a Star Trek setting, and there's an Eraserhead setting, and there's a Twin Peaks setting, and they're all interesting places. And I hope that the audience who doesn't know anything about any of it feels like they're visiting that place and checking it out, but staying with the story, which is about this woman. That I believe that is working in the film, and why people are so moved, because we also don't talk about these things very much, not in this culture, and they need to be talked about.
Well, on that note too, you make a choice to allow the story to tell itself, and for these individuals to tell their stories without you being a talking head in the film, is talking a lot about your own experience. Can you share a little bit about your backstory?
Well, that's
David
why I'm here
Catherine?
now. I'm getting all my juice. This
Like
way,
how long
see.
you've known them?
Me.
Yeah. Like how long you've known them? Yeah.
Say,
How long you've known them? How long
I knew David and Catherine and all those guys. So when I was 18 years old, I moved up to San Francisco. It was 1971. And I think I went up there because I wanted to be a musician, but acting was in my back pocket, and I had been a magician for a while. And I went up with a woman who wanted to be a dancer. So I started doing improvised verse in the streets of San Francisco quite successfully. Robert Shields taught me how to turn this thing I developed at the Dickens Fair, going up to people into a show. And I would challenge people to give me a number of words, and I would be able to telling these clever, tightrope walker kind of stories. That as long as I got to the end and I didn't fall on my face, everybody was happy. It was improv, right? And out of that, I met this guy, John Acorn, who's in the film, and Donna Dubain, who's in the film. And they had been associated, Cab Covey as well, with the circus before it broke up. And they were still in San Francisco. So Catherine and Donna, and Catherine and Jack come down here, and Timmy, and I go up there and start a new theater company, Theater of Marvels. And within weeks, we have everybody that had been in circuses now coming around, having wine on Friday nights, figuring out the next project. It was wonderful. It was this wonderful time and a wonderful theatrical family, which still exists to this day. So we did that for a couple of years. I turned 20, and I got worried that I was going to get stuck in a show or something special would happen, and I wouldn't go hitchhiking around the world, which was my fantasy, that hippies are supposed to do that at 20 years old, and so I did it. And on the way down, a couple of people came down. Donna came down to audition for this new show in Los Angeles, the Mayfair Music Hall, English-style music hall. I happened to win $600 at the track the first day I was here with my dad. I'd never been to the track, and I'd saved $600. Now I had $1,200, so I wasn't going to hitchhike to New York and get a tramp steamer across. I was going to fly to London, and I stayed an extra week, and they came down, and I auditioned too, and they hired me, and so they were hanging out with Catherine up in Beechwood, and David and Jack, and so where was I going to go for 12 weeks every day? Where were they going to come? They drank on my bar tab at the Mayfair Music Hall. It was an extraordinary experience. I'm younger than they are, so I was the kid, and Jack Nance was hysterically funny, and David was David. He's that guy, right? Not almost that guy. You know, he matured and got even better as the years went on, as far as I could tell. So that's how I know them. And yeah, okay.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Anyone in the audience have a question? We'll have to bounce back to you. Don't be shy.
If you don't,
One
I have a
rarely gets
question.
an
Can I ask a
opportunity.
question?
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
audience?
No, you're on stage.
I'd like anybody to shout out who they think should see this film. Your film teacher, thank you. Okay. Your mom. Why?
Because she would just, this whole being with someone in, hearing about how they're looking at their own, the way she approached her own death. I just think to my mom would be she would find it very meaningful.
Anybody else have any ideas? Anybody think anybody should see it?
Everybody our age.
Everybody our age. Hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I would say I'm a big believer in the Tao Te Ching. I love the Stephen Mitchell little version of it that gives you no religion but some advice about how this wise man supposedly saw the world. But the idea that we should embrace death in order to appreciate life is something that a young man can really benefit of, because I know the sooner I got that notion, the more I started appreciating who I was. This movie, I mean, I'm really having a good time these days because this movie has given me some perspective, I think, not to put too much on it. Anybody else? Can I play a song for you? Please. Yeah? Okay.
I'm going to give you the stage. I want to give you a little bit of focus, everyone.
If I talk to you now that you're gone, how will I know that you're here? And if you talk to me, is it really you? Or imagination whispering in my ear? Imagination. I used to bring out my worries, you hardly said a word. I knew you understood. You told me to listen to my heart and keep my own counsel, take my own advice if it's good. I didn't know I'd miss you so. Oh, for the chance to be heard like I was. Wish you could come back and stay here from the other side, but nobody does. Nobody does. I'm gonna talk to you
Now that you're gone, remember the things that you said. So maybe it won't really matter whether you respond or our conversation's only in my head. 'Cause if I can hear you in my heart, that'll be a start. At least I know how I feel. If I can hear you in my heart, then I'll have what to go on, and I won't have to go on without you.
I lost the question, I'm sorry.
The process of touring with the film cinematically.
Touring.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any
Theatrically.
intention. We have, and that we're still going through with this. In fact, we're just entering this phase now, where soon we will be doing our own digital distribution, and which we always had decided to do. It was because David passed that all of a sudden this interest came, and people started reaching out to us, and it was wonderful. I must tell you, I don't think that I would feel the way I feel about this film if we had just done a digital release and I was reading reviews, good ones, bad ones, you know, friends liked it, you know, maybe we were making some money, that would have, you know, made me feel good for sure. But it's nothing like, I'm looking at real people who are here not because of who I am, but because of that, right? And that is, you know, that's 8 years of mine and a number of other people's lives up there on that screen. And that's a great feeling, and it's a beautiful thing. And so I would not have had that. I'm really, really grateful for it. I will say that.
Happy accident.
Huh?
Happy accident.
Happy accident, and I hope it continues. I'm going to propose that somebody sets up a tour of Mulholland Drive, and I don't know Jack and 7 Year Zigzag, my first film, and I know Catherine. We can do 2 nights in cities all across the country. I'll buy an Airstream. Childhood dream. Yeah.
On that note, educate us a little bit. You know, I overheard you as we were in the back. Some people were leaving this, stepping out for drinks. This amazing film, and you said letterboxed.
Yeah.
Talk about the importance of that sort of thing in the process.
It's really important. I'm not sure that it's ultimately important because I think that we will find our audience. I believe that now, and that's the other thing that I got from the theatrical, is I have an absolute belief that this film works. Not that it couldn't be improved. Anything can be improved by 10,000, but that this is it. We're doing an Academy qualifying run. We cannot change it now. It's over. It's done. This is it, and it works. And you know, there may be parts that some people think are slow or too jagged or too loud or whatever, but ultimately it's a full meal. And you know, and it's a satisfying meal, and maybe, you know, the second side dish you don't like so much, or the dessert is not to your liking, but the meal, it works. I believe it, and the audiences, you people sitting here now, convince me of this, and that is what I need to trust. And so our technique, let me tell you how we're going to do it, because it's fairly unique. I think it's cool. We're going with Annie Lundgren, the dark-haired woman who was producing the actual shoot. She's an amazing producer. She also works with software companies, very, very smart person. And during COVID, they made a deal with the local, they were just about to release one of their films. They make local films up there. And the theaters all went dark, right? They were going to do a local screenings of this movie. So she went to them and they said, look, we'll put it online and stream it and we'll share the revenue with you. So you do your normal, outreach to your fans who are coming to the theater and tell them they can watch the film at home and we'll do a revenue share. And this is the same time I'm thinking that I want all my 1,752 backers to have the opportunity to put this film out there for themselves, right? So we had decided separately to do this affiliate program, which we're now calling a partner program. What's going to happen, and it'll be probably in the next 45 days, you'll go to our website, iknowcatherine.com, and you don't have to sign up or anything. If you want it, it's a Shopify store. It's structured that way, so it's simple. If you want to see the movie or our other 2 movies, it'll be $20 for a download. Well, the other 2s will be cheaper, but this will be $20 for a download or a stream. And if you're an affiliate or a partner of ours, we'll give you a code. And you can send it out to all of your friends and family, some of whom have never understood why you like Twin Peaks. And this film may help them understand not Twin Peaks, but understand the values, the things that you're relating to within Twin Peaks. And if any one of those people watch it, they will get a $5 discount off that $20. And you will get $5 back to you or the charity of your choice. And we went, well, that's like potential 1,752 marketers for us, right? And then we thought, the theater is a really big part of this, the legitimate theater. And we did some research. There are 6,000 community theaters in this country. And most community theaters probably don't have a full-time fundraising person or clever programs or that much to offer their community and it may be a fairly small community. Maybe there's a couple hundred people that support this local theater and one guy who makes bread and does well and keeps putting money in, you don't know. But why not give them all a code? So that all they have to do is send it out. We don't want their email list. Just send it out to your people. And if anybody sees the movie and buys it, they'll get a $5 discount and you will get $5 towards your company. This was our plan. This is our plan. And we hope that we can reach enough of the 2.5 million people that watched on average every episode of The Return, that if we can get a percentage of them to watch this movie, we might be able to pay off the debt, the crushing debt that we're in for having made it. And just so you know, if we can't, it's still really worth it. It was really worth it.
Kind of sing. Got the Frida in. We're down.
I don't know if there's a better way to say again.
I was going to say, any last thoughts? Or?
No. Well, one. Will you indulge me a 2.5 minute song? Another one, right? Would you? Okay. Let me give you this.
When I think of you, you're smiling, and I find that I am smiling too. When I think of you, you're laughing, and the house is laughing loud with you. Every show you do. When I think of me and how sad I feel, how your family is gonna need some time to heal. I know they know wherever life goes, your love and faith in them is real. When I think of you, you're dancing, and I'm the friend who shared your last dance. We twirl in your groundling's world. When I think of you, it's love for the folks that we both know who love you too. It's just what you do. When I think of me, how lucky I've been to know you for so long, and to be there at the end, to see you inspire your family and friends who saw you fall, and out of love stand up again. smiling, and I find I'm smiling too.